Born to a mother at 16 years old, to a two-bedroom home. Used to sleep on the floor. At the age of 7 years old, you discovered your dream. You wanted to become an NFL player. You used to get up with your father on Saturday mornings at 5:30 and used to run miles and miles. The first game in your sophomore season, you tore the ligaments. Was out for your junior year. You broke your clavicle the first game. Out for the season. College scouts would come in to see you and they would say, man, you are extremely talented. We just don't know if you're going to make it out of high school, let alone college. He said, son, there is no way that you will make it. Coach Philip Foreman from the University of Tennessee came into Crim High School. I want to offer you a scholarship to go to the University of Tennessee. He said, Coach, I'm coming. The reporter was making a beeline. Inky Johnson, do you even think you're going to play at the University of Tennessee? I'm going to start at the University of Tennessee. You played a little bit your freshman sophomore season came, you broke the starting line. You got as strong as you had ever been. More of a student of the game. You got the bench press 315 pounds. You call your grandmother, you call your mother. You say, after this year, our lives are about to change forever. Second game, you guys are playing against Air Force. You guys found yourselves in the dog fight. Fourth quarter, Air Force had just went down and onside, kicked the ball and dropped. Air Force recovered. You guys broke the huddle. You called quarters cover. Running back slips out of the backfield. Man, he's coming down your side. Quarterback released the ball to the running back. Running back catches it.
Got the pass caught.
Stop. I'm standing between you and the rest of your life. Where do your strength come from? Where do your drive come from? Where do your motivation come from? Where do your perseverance come from? Everything that you've ever been through, everything that you've ever faced, you've had the ability to overcome. You've had the ability to persevere. Everybody that ever made a sacrifice for you in your life, everybody that ever believed in you, everybody that ever gave you an opportunity in your life, you can't let them down. And I can't stop you. I can't stop you. Even if I wanted to, I can't stop you because you're about to get stronger.
Carney back. Got the pass caught. Well, we got a Tennessee player. It's Inky Johnson who's down.
People ask you all the time if you can go back to September 9th, 2006, that game against the Air Force, and you can stop that moment, or you can not play in that game, or you knew this situation was about to happen, would you change it? I can't stop this moment because of the people that believed in you and the people that sacrificed so much for you, and the people that saw something in you and you couldn't see it in yourself. To your grandmother, to your mother, to your mentor, to your father, to your family members, to your friends, to the people that looked to you and were inspired and were encouraged and were motivated. You had overcame so much. And by doing that, it gave so many other people strength. So I don't want you to deal with the disappointment of thinking that you disappointed them because your dream has left. I can't change it because of what's about to happen. But even if I could, I wouldn't.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce the man whose mission has always been to inspire people and change lives, Mr. Inky Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you all so much. You know, I'm even more impressed that I think some Alabama, Georgia, and Florida fans clapped for me. You know? But it's an extreme honor and privilege to be here before you all today on this stage. And I always tell people that speaking was never something that I planned to do, and so every opportunity I get to do it, it comes with a certain level of reverence and respect because I understand my life is being guided by something that's a lot greater than myself. And so the video that you just saw, that was a trailer that got ran by ESPN. And so they went on to produce a short film, kind of a 30 for 30 deal. It did very well, and one day I was in Atlanta, and I was with my son, my daughter, my wife, and we were just chilling out, and I received a call. And it was from the producer that did the film, and he said, Inky, man, what are you doing? I said, I'm just chilling with my family. He said, I got some great news for you. I said, what you got? He said, man, can you believe the film we did is doing very well? I said, yeah, man, I know. It was a great experience. He said, well, it's nominated for an Emmy. I said, man, that's pretty cool. I said, who else is in the category? And the first name he said was Muhammad Ali. I said, we lost, I'm telling you. I said, I'm telling you right now, we lost, right? I said, but it's cool to get nominated, right? And we went on and we lost, but it was all good. I got nominated, right? But I love to share with people how it manifested, right? Because I'm a firm believer in service. I believe service is the currency to elevation. You want to go higher in life, you find your place to serve or people to serve with, and through that, elevation happens. And so me and my wife, we both grew up inner city Atlanta, right downtown, about 5 minutes away from Turner Field, the old Braves Stadium, and we've adopted 3 homeless shelters, and we do work with inner city youth. And so at any given moment, you can see me under any bridge downtown doing work with the homeless gentleman. And so on this particular day, I was downtown doing work with the gentleman. I had some food in my hand, and we're under a bridge, I-20 East to be exact. And so we're engaging in dialogue, and my phone starts to ring, and it's a Connecticut area code. And at the time, I didn't know anybody from Connecticut, and so I had one of my buddies with me, and I said to him, I don't know anybody from Connecticut, and so I'll just let it ring out. And he says, you might want to answer that. I said, why? He said, ESPN, duh. I said, well, brother, I don't know anybody from ESPN, duh, but I'll give it a shot. And so I pick up the phone, and on the other end, the guy says, Inky Johnson, Jose Morales, ESPN producer. I looked at my buddy, I said, man, you're a preacher, you prophetic. You spoke that to existence, right? And he went on to say, is this really Inky Johnson? I said, yes, sir, last time I checked, I'm Inky Johnson. He said, is this the same guy that said, if you could change what happened to you, you wouldn't change it, your injury? I said, I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world. He said, you almost lost your life, right? I said, no question. He said, you got a paralyzed right arm and hand behind it, right? I said, absolutely. He said, it's our understanding that the game of football, it meant the world to you. I said, yeah, at one point it did. I said, but now I can watch a game, I can enjoy it. It's all good. He said, what are you doing right now? I said, I'm under a bridge doing work with the homeless gentleman. He said, I'm coming to see you. I said, come on, I'm in Atlanta. He said, no, I don't want to see you in Atlanta. I want to see you in Neyland Stadium on the exact yard line where you made the tackle and you almost lost your life, and I want you to tell me that. And so what you were witnessing on the film was me standing in the exact same position where I made the tackle. I almost lost my life, but I'm telling my younger self why I wouldn't stop the opposition, adversity, and the challenge, even if I could, because of what the moment is going to go on to produce. And so I meet the guy in the stadium. He comes in, big production crew. We walk over to the spot where I made the tackle. We start small talk, and then we walk off. And so he says to me, Inky, I work at ESPN. I'm not here because of your story. I produce stories all the time. I said, great. Why are you here then? He said, I'm here because me and the guys in my office, we can't understand your perspective. He said, most importantly, we can't understand the language of what you speak about your situation with. And he said, on a personal level, I have a wife and I got 3 daughters. And he said, we're going through a little rough patch in our life right now, and I just want to understand what made you respond in the manner of which you responded to what happened to you. And I went on to share with them, it will probably be impossible for you to ever view what I went through the way I view it because you didn't almost die. So you didn't wake up paralyzed, right arm and hand, had to adjust to a new normal, had to learn how to walk again because they took the main vein out of your left leg, so you'll probably never view it the way that I view it. I said, but this is the one thing I can assure you. Everything I've ever been a part of, everything I've ever been connected to, everything I've ever had the privilege of doing, the purpose of it was always greater than the individual, and so the opposition, adversity, and the challenge was always superseded, not because I considered myself to be anything special, but my association of adversity was different. In other words, I never viewed adversity as, man, why do I have to go through this? I always viewed it in the fashion of, man, when I get through it, I'll be a better team member because of it. Man, if I could process it in the right way, there's a strong possibility that I could use it, embrace it, and add value to every environment that I go into and every person's life that I come in contact with. And so when I looked at it, my association of it was something of the magnitude of, if I can get it, do it, I can become a better team member. But on down the line, if I can sustain a mentality, one day I can be a great father, great husband, and somebody that can contribute to society beyond myself. And so when it happened, what I was trying to share with them was the tool of adversity, the tool of opposition, the tool of a challenge was something that I've always considered to be a blessing. Because I grew up in a 2-bedroom home with 14 people and was born to a mother at 16 years old that worked the double shift at Wendy's. And so in the early childhood of my life, I slept on the floor on pallets most nights. And so something happened at an early age that shifted the trajectory of my life and how I view people. And so what happened was, me and my cousins, I had 3 younger cousins. Now they're in the Army. And so every single day, we came up with this little dream that we wanted to go to the NFL, National Football League, this institution, right? Found out very quickly that the NFL didn't just stand for National Football League, it also stood for not for long, right? But we wanted to make it to this institution because we felt as if we can make it to the NFL, we can provide a better life for our family, and just maybe I could get a bed to myself. And so every day, the routine was, every day after school, we would rush home, play tackle football in the street lights would pop on, we had 10 or so minutes before we had to go in the house. And so the routine would happen, we would be out getting after it. Pure passion, not too much wisdom. Bloody, scarred up, making it happen. And one night, we're in the street playing tackle football, and the street lights pop on, and I had the ball in my hand, and there was a blue pickup truck at the corner. And so I back out of the way, and I stand on the sidewalk, and my 3 younger cousins stand on the opposite sidewalk. And so I'm looking at this truck, and I'm waving him by. I'm like, come on, man, I got a couple moves I want to put on these young jokers, man. Right? And so he's just chilling. And he starts to drive by really slow. And he passes us, and he parks on the sidewalk. Out of the truck got the first white guy that ever saw in my neighborhood. Drug dealers take off running, gang members, they think he's the cops, right? They're running, 5-0, right? Nicest guy in the world. He walks over between our game, and he says, would you guys like to play football on grass? I said, brother, I would love that. Where you been? The street getting rough. He said, go in the house, get your parents, get your guardian, let me talk to him. I ran in the house, my uncle JJ was present. I said, hey, uncle, will you please come and speak to this gentleman? My uncle said, sure. Uncle walked outside, the guy extended his hand, said, hey man, my name is Trey Hirst. He said, I don't even supposed to be over here. He said, I dropped the kid home after practice, I'm just checking out the neighborhood. I see these little knuckleheads playing tackle football in the street. He said, I run a league across town. I think it could help him develop into some great young men. My uncle's response was, sir, we greatly appreciate it, but we just don't have the money for anything like that. He pointed at me. He said, Inky's mother, she's working a double shift at Wendy's, single mother. She don't have it. The other 3, their fathers are in and out of the system. They don't have it. The coach said, I tell you what, you bring him to the park tomorrow, I'll sign him up, I'll pay for it with my own money. The next day, my uncle brought us to the park. I stood in line beside this guy that I didn't know from a can of paint. I watched him take cash out of his own pocket. He paid for me and my 3 younger cousins to play ball. And my family, the only people that ended up going to college was me and my 3 younger cousins he paid for on that street that day. But I wasn't so intrigued by the action. I wanted to understand the mindset and the spirit that lied behind the action. Because I would soon find out this wasn't just something he did for me and my 3 younger cousins. It was a way he operated and the way that he lived his life. And so I wanted to understand what made him operate with the spirit of, if I do something for you, I don't need anything in return. I wanted to understand what was the mindset of, if I pat you on your back, I'm not expecting you to pat me on my back. I wanted to understand that. And so one night when he took me home, I got out of his truck. I stood on the sidewalk in front of 125 Warren. That was my house. I said, all right, coach, I'll see you tomorrow. He said, all right, Ink, I'll catch you later. I said, can I ask you one question? He said, sure, what you got, Ink? I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I really want to know. He said, son, I love you. He opened his door, got out, walked around, stood directly in front of me. I said, why do you live life the way that you live it? Why do you do what you do? He said, son, I'm going to share something with you, and I don't want you to ever forget it. In its simplicity, it was yet profound. And what he said to me was, Inky, as long as you can live your life and make sure that somebody else's life is okay, he said, son, your life will always be okay. And he got in his truck and he left. And the first thing that popped into my mind was, man, if I can annihilate my ego. The second thing that popped into my mind was, man, if I can operate within the spirit, not just of me, but if I can operate within a selfish, not just spirit in football, but if I can operate within a selfless spirit within the game of life, maybe I could be something special, not just as a football player, but as a person. And so people saw me when I was coming up. They said, man, that kid Inky, he loved the game, and I did. Right? I love the fact that I can inflict violence on another individual and not get in trouble for it. I loved every bit of that. Right? But what they missed was, what I loved more than anything was the fact that I was a part of something, and the purpose of what we were working for was greater than any one of us. I love the fact that in football, they said, it's not so much about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. I love the fact that when we had a scheme, if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, the scheme might not work. I love the fact that when I stepped in a huddle, I made guys understand there's a difference between playing with you and playing for you. Like every single day of my life, I don't live with my family, I live for my family. Like every single day of my life, I don't live with my children, I live for my children. I don't live with my wife, I live for my wife. And so having a purpose that was a lot greater than myself, that was something that drove me my whole life. And so when I hit opposition and adversity, my purpose for why I was living my life was totally different. Like September 9th, 2006, that's the best day of my life outside of marrying my wife and having my 2 children. And that's the day my life changed. That's the day my career ended. But I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world, because when people see it, they see what happened to me. They see the tragedy. They see a paralyzed right arm and hand. They see the atrophy. They see, man, a guy's career ended on September 9th, 2006. But what they fail to see is what the moment produced. What they fail to see is my arm and my hand is paralyzed. My heart isn't. What they fail to see is my arm and my hand is paralyzed. My mindset isn't. What they fail to see is my arm and my hand is paralyzed. My dedication and my commitment isn't. And the type of commitment that I'm speaking of is not the commitment that says, yes, I'll show up, yes, I'll do what I'm supposed to do. That's counterfeit. I'm talking about the commitment that says, I am going to stay true to what I said I would do long after the mood that I've set it in has left, because I know in those days, those are the days that I build character, and character is not something that we inherit. Character is something we got to wake up every single day, we got to fight, and we got to build it. In the midst of opposition, in the midst of adversity, and in the midst of challenges. And so every single Sunday, I say to myself, if this was the last week of your life, how would you live it? If this was the last week I had with my wife, how would I treat her? If this was the last week I had with my children, how would I treat them as their father? If this was the last week I had to serve, how would I treat it? You know, the funny thing about life is people tend not to appreciate something until they almost lose it. And so when I work with teams all the time, I ask them, if this was your last play, how would you approach it? The trip part about the game that I got injured in, my routine was the same. And so the reason I'm telling you this is, like, when you have an NDE, a near-death experience, you tend to view life different, you tend to view people different. Like, I don't play the ego game. Like, you got some people, they get more degrees than a thermometer, you can't tell them nothing. And so when I look at people, I deal with people different, right? Like, my actions, my decisions and choices is never predicated upon how an individual treats me. And so every single day, what I say to them is, when I look at them and say, if this was your last play, how would you treat it? Most guys tend to think about that in a different manner. And so when I say to them, if you almost lose something, how would you respond to it? They tend to respond differently. But you have people every single day, they live their life and they're so arrogant. You got people every single day, they act as if they're promised the next 5 or 10 years. You got people, they have a little success, and one day they're on top of the world, never realizing they can wake up tomorrow and the world can be on top of them. Like, I hate to see tragedy. I hate to see people go through things. But tragedy, opposition, and adversity has a funny way of weeding out the foolishness. I remember when I was watching what happened in Houston last year, like, my heart broke for it, right? I was watching and you see people losing their lives, you see people losing their homes. And I'm watching this situation, and I'm like, man, you also see the beauty of people. Like, $5 million homes got lost, $1 million homes got lost. Superficial, materialistic. $50,000 homes got lost, $5 million homes got lost. $100,000 homes got lost, $1 million homes got lost. And the crazy thing about it was, nobody showed up and they said, hey man, what's your political party? Nobody showed up and said, what neighborhood you live in? How much was your house worth? They showed up and said, I got a boat. You got a boat? It's an old lady stuck in the house. We need to go get her. They showed up and said, you got a truck? You got some water? It's some children that's stuck. We need to go and get them. It's just like the 9/11 incident. When I look at life, I view it different. You see, when people see me, they see atrophy. But when I see a person, everybody I meet is fighting a battle that I don't know anything about. And it's not my job to change them. I'm not here to change anybody. My job is to exemplify greatness when I'm in your presence. And if I can make you think, why does he live his life the way that he does? And it sparks change in your life, my job is done. It's not to show up and act as if people are broken. My job is to show up, and when I'm in a person's presence, to give them everything that I got, because I understand this. The trip part about life is somebody that woke up today, they're not going to see tonight. And so when I approach a person, when I approach an environment, I have a responsibility and a duty to give it everything I got. And so I approach football the same way. Football was like this stage to me. Guys would step out and they would say, man, you see that girl in the third row? I would say, brother, I love the way this grass smells. I love the way the grass smells. So if you were concerned about a cheerleader when I play, I'm going to rip your head off. But on September 9th, what happened was I went out, I said my prayer at the same time. I put on my pregame music. My song was that Phil Collins. I can feel it coming. That was my joint. Air tonight. That was my song. And I'm just thinking we're going to go out, deal with Air Force, and get ready for Florida the next week. And Air Force came out and smacked us. They brought that triple option out. We weren't used to it in the SEC. Fourth quarter rolled around, 2 minutes left in the game. Game is basically over. Their quarterback drops back. He releases the ball to a guy on Air Force's team. He catches it. He's coming down the sideline. I'm going to make the tackle that's supposed to end the game. And as soon as I hit him, something different happened that had never happened to me before in my life. I hit him. It seemed as if every breath in my body left. My body went completely limp. I fell to the ground. I blacked out. It had never happened to me before. My eyes opened. My teammates ran over. They said, "Ink, get up. Let's rock. Let's go." I said, "I can't." They said, "What do you mean you can't, man? You always get up. You're our guy. We need you." I said, "I can't." They said, "What do you mean you can't? You're our starting corner." I said, "I can't move. There's a shock going from the crown of my head to the bottom of my feet. I can't feel anything." The shock eventually leaves. It stays in my right arm and hand. They bring the spine board out. They're wheeling me off the field. We get beside the ambulance. My father's standing there. I said, "Pops, I got him, right? I put it on him, right?" He said, "Yeah, son, but I think you got the worst part of this one." They get me up in the ambulance. They say, "We'll take you over, run a couple tests. It's football. Things happen." They get me over to the hospital. They run their tests. They bring me back into the room. My mother comes in. She kisses me. She says a prayer, cracks a joke, says, "Ink, you'll be fine. It's football. Things happen." And she's going to walk out, and I'm watching my mother exit the room. And as she's walking out, I can hear footsteps from the opposite side, and it's a gentleman running, and it's the head doctor. And he's screaming, "Guys, get in here. We got to rush this kid back to emergency surgery. He's about to die." And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, "Brother, you can't use another word?" I'm like, "Use a synonym, brother." I'm like, "Die." You're like, "Yeah, die." I'm like, "You sure?" He said, "Yeah, you ruptured your subclavian artery in your chest. You're bleeding internally." He said, "We got to rush you back, take the main vein out of your leg, plug it into your chest in order to save your life, or I guarantee you, you won't be here in the morning." I said, "Let's go." And the next morning I woke up, the game of football on my scale of life, it's that big. NFL contract, SEC championship. I was embarrassed. People were coming in saying, "Inky, we're sorry about what happened to you." And I'm like, "Man, that's all you wanted? Like all the gifts and talents and abilities you have been blessed with, and you limited yourself to a little NFL contract because you grew up in a 2-bedroom home with 14 people? Like that's all you wanted? All the opportunities you got to make an impact in somebody's life, and the only thing you thought about was an NFL contract. Like that's all you wanted?" Like we live in a world to where people are so busy to where you can literally speak to a person, and by the time they reply, they've already walked off. Like a person can literally ask you a question, and they're asking you the question with the intent to reply and not the intent to understand. That was me. Like it reminded me of an encounter I had on a plane, and I was headed to Dallas, and I'm sitting there in my seat, and I'm dozing in and off, and a lady comes to me, and she shakes my shoulder and says, "Mr. Johnson, I am a physician. I really need to switch seats with you." I said, "Yes, ma'am. Where's your seat?" She pointed me to it. I went back, and as I'm taking my seat, the pilot comes over the intercom and says, "I'm sure you guys are aware what's going on." I'm like, "Man, did she just trick me? Like, we about to go down." Right? Then he followed it up with, "There's a gentleman having a heart attack." I looked a couple of seats up. I could see it as clear as day. And when he said it, everybody on the plane was like, "Whoa." And then he said, "We have to make an emergency landing." And over half of the people are like, "Man, let's go. Let's get him down. Let's save him. Let's do what we got to do." And there were some people that were like, no, man, I got to get to where I'm going." And I got it. I said, "Man, people got things to do, people to see, places to be. I got it." I said, "But is that what we've gotten to where a destination has become more important in human life? Not Dallas. to where goals, dreams, and aspirations, what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'm trying to get has become more important than human life. Like I saw a kid 2 weeks ago. I said, kid, you got it. You're smart. I said, son, you're brilliant. You're special. You're gifted. You're talented. You got it. I said, but be careful. You're so ambitious that you don't get blinded by your own ambitions. You got it. I said, son, be careful when you're reaching for the stars that everybody you love don't get burned up by the heat. You got it. I said, because the worst thing for an individual to become in this day and time is, to the public, they're public success, but behind closed doors, they're private failure. They could give energy and passion to their careers and things that they deem important, but the things that really matter, they don't pay much attention. And so when I got my second lease on life, it was literally as if somebody pulled the shades up on my life and they said, son, now you see life for what it's really worth. I viewed people different. Like I appreciated life different. I went from running a 4.38 and a 40-yard dash, bench pressing 325 pounds, to getting 6 scars down my left thigh, 1 cut across the left side of my neck, 1 across the right side of my neck, twice through my right ribs, cut out my right pec, bottom of my armpit to the bottom of my hand, put 350 staples in my body, and they bandaged me from my neck to my knees. Gone. I had to learn how to walk again. I was grabbing my father's shoulder, walking laps around the hospital. And so when I look at a person, when I do something, I'm giving it everything I got. They posed a question to Martin Luther King's wife after he passed, years after he passed. And the question they posed to her was, why after he passed away, why didn't you ever remarry? She said, that's easy. It'll be an automatic downgrade. And so when I look at people, the question I pose is, if they got to replace you, in whatever capacity, will it be an automatic downgrade? Like, I'm gonna close this out with this. Something happened with me and my family this past Christmas, and I didn't expect it. Me and my wife were out, and we were doing a little Christmas shopping. Well, she was Christmas shopping. I was praying she didn't spend too much money, right? And so I'm walking. I'm about 10 or 15 yards away from my wife, and I kind of got my head down, and I'm roaming, and I walk up on some mini four-wheelers. And so when I see him, I get semi-excited. And so I look up at my wife thinking she's going to pose the same excitement. And as soon as I look at her, she's like, no. I'm like, come on, let us get one for our son. She's like, no, they're dangerous. I said, well, let us get 2. You know, you reject me, I'm going to double down and go harder, right? She said, no, your arm is already hurt. You need to chill out. I said, okay. I got to walk around the store, maybe get her something she'll give in. Walked around the store, got her a purse, she gave in, I got 2 for my son and my daughter. And so Christmas Day, we wake up, I got him parked outside, I got him already crunk up. You know, we're going to open presents, and my son, he sees it. So he's like, Dad, let's go outside, bump the presents, let's go out to the little bike thing. I'm like, let's go, Ink, let's do it. And so we run out, I got the knee pads, the elbow pads, the helmet, the Vaseline. I know it's about to be a little crash course. And so we go out, we're getting padded up, get the Vaseline on, and so Grandma comes out. Grandma's, oh man, it's gonna be awesome, and she's recording. And so cousins come out, they're recording, man, Ink, this is about to be awesome. So my wife's the last one to come out, she's recording, but she's really not feeling it, but she gotta act like she's feeling it. And so the way I teach my children, I teach them in code words. And so I was telling my son, I said, okay, Ink, like the first 2 code words are gonna be light and heavy. I said, now I'm going to sit you on the seat, and I'm going to sit on the back rack. And so when I say light, you barely press it. We're going to ride, and it's going to be the presidential way. Let them take their pictures, let them record. We're all good. I said, when I say heavy, you mash it, you pedal to the metal. We're full throttle. We're going. He said, all right, Dad, got it. We started doing it. He was getting it. Son's 6 years old at the time. And so I said, now I'm going to teach you how to turn. I said, the turn code words are skinny and wide. I said, now when you're on it by yourself, skinny, all day, you could turn skinny, you're in the clear, you're all good. I said, now when I'm on the back of here, you turn wide, because if you turn skinny, strong possibility you may throw Dad off of here, and my wife, your mother, is not going to let us live it down to 2025, right? And so we start riding, and he's getting it, skinny, wide, light, heavy. And so we come over a hump, and I say to him, Ink, wide. And somehow he heard skinny. And he whips it, and sure enough, I come off, and in mid-air, I look back under my armpit. I'm looking for my wife. And as soon as I connect eyes with her, she's already in full stride, jaw shaking, the whole 9. And so when I hit the ground, I roll. And when I roll, I pop up. My son had hit the ground by this time. Four-wheeler flipped over. And so when I look at my son and he looks up, he's bleeding from his forehead, right? Helmet cocked up, pads all distorted. And my wife is still coming. We're on 15 acres. And so I'm like, think quick, Ink. I'm like, you gotta beat your wife to your son, because if you don't, she gonna make him think he got shot 10 times, right? And so I jump up and I run to the four-wheeler. I stand it up, right? I run to my son, I grab him. I stand him up, I fix his helmet, I dust him off, and I sit him on the four-wheeler. And I sit on the back rack. And he's kind of looking at me like, Dad, what's going on? I said, Ink, go! And he says to me, Daddy, you want me to leave Mommy? I'm like, son, you don't know what Mommy about to do when she get here. I said, go heavy. He mashes it. We midway down the driveway, he screams out, Dad, this is the best thing ever. I'm like, I know, man, now turn wild, let's go back up where Mommy is, and we're gonna park it. He turns wild, we get back up where my wife, my mom is, and we park it, and everybody is hot as fish grease. And they're asking me the same question, why did you do it? Why didn't you stop? He's bleeding. Your elbow is skint up, like why didn't you stop? Like why did you do it? And I told him because if I didn't attack the opposition and the adversity in that moment, it would have paralyzed him for the rest of his life, not physically. It would have paralyzed him from a perspective standpoint. I said the lesson wasn't about the four-wheeler. The lesson wasn't about my wife. The lesson was to my son, when life knocks your butt down, I need you to get up and I need you to go heavy on it. The lesson was when you feel a little bit of pain, son, I need you to get up and I need you to go heavy on it. The lesson was when you feel blood, I need you to get up and I need you to go heavy on it. The lesson was when you feel uncertainty, I need you to get up and go heavy on it. Like, I just want one thing from you. I'm energetic, I'm passionate about life. But I do understand this one thing to be true. In life, people don't burn out because of what they do. People burn out because life makes them forget why they do it. And if you ever encounter a moment that life makes you forget why you do what you do, I want you to remember one thing. Man, Inky Johnson, that little skinny cat from Tennessee, he told me to go heavy on it. That's my time. God bless you. Thank you. I love you.
I'm sure you would agree with me, that was absolutely unbelievable. Ink said he has time for about 5 minutes of questions. We got a couple minutes for questions, so we got to make it fast. We have any questions? Ink's going to take a couple questions.
Just want to warn you, Tennessee football is a sensitive subject, but go for it. Nah. Oh, we good. You can ask me anything from injury to ball to life to wife. It's all good. Life's an open book. My man, DC.
Thanks, man. How long did it take for you to make that transition from this was all I was looking forward to, this is what I'm destined for?
It took me, I would say a few years, because I thought I was just going to be a defensive backs coach. And I had started down the path to become that. I was doing 3 years as a graduate assistant at the University of Tennessee, and things were going really well. And then my wife, somehow, she got pregnant, somehow. Right? And, you know, she's a teacher. And I had to make the decision to move back to Atlanta because I couldn't provide for a family on a graduate assistant salary at the time. And so when I moved back to Atlanta, I had planned to write curriculums for the city of Atlanta with kids at the rec center that I grew up in. I was just gonna go up, work at the rec center, work with the kids, help them. And the guy that I was supposed to do the work with, he got fired. And so at the time, I was at my wife's grandmother's home, didn't have anything going on, and people would tell me, man, you need to go out and speak. And I just started volunteering in an informal way. And me and my buddy Gerard Mayo that played for the Patriots, my best friend, and he said to me one day, Inky, you might need to really look into this. And I'm a person of faith. And I prayed one night, and literally my prayer was, Lord, I don't know if this is what you want me to do, but if it is, I'll be obedient and let's go. Because in the Bible it says obedience is better than sacrifice, but more times than not, as people, we judge the level of sacrifice without first being obedient. And so I wanted to be obedient and go where I was called, and I did that. And through that, opportunities came, and just being the type of person that I am, I've never been the most talented, never been the biggest, never been the strongest. But my strength has always been, I'm willing to study, I'm willing to learn everything about what I'm doing. Even when I played football, I was small cornerback. I was 167 to 170 pounds on any given Saturday. But when I played against an opponent, I knew everything he did, and I knew 10 different ways that he did it. And so I would just study and be a student of what I was called to do. I felt in being obedient, and opportunities came, and I believe the Lord blessed it. And so I've been doing it now for 12 years. And I've never worked through a speaker's bureau. I've never went out and solicited work. I'm not that guy. I just believe that the opportunities that I get, the opportunities I come in contact with, it's destiny. That's what I'm supposed to do. And so that's how it happened. So thank you for your question. Sure. Yes, sir.
Do you ever see yourself going back into the coaching arena in football in any capacity?
Yeah, I wanted to do it at my high school, which is Crim High School. It's an Atlanta public school. But they ended up shutting the school down 2 years after I graduated. And then they opened it up a couple of years later, and they stripped it of all the sports. They said the kids in the community didn't deserve it. They were too bad. And so I go to the Atlanta Public School Board just about every other week. And I fight for that to get back instilled into my high school. And if we do, that will be the place that I will probably coach, because I'm passionate about that community. I'm passionate about that place because I believe it played a vital part into me becoming a man that I am today. But I love ball, man. Like, a lot of people ask me the question, are you bitter toward football because of what happened to you? Do you hate the sport? I love it. And to be honest with you, I don't think if I played it, and the injury that I have is called, in medical terms, it's a brachial plexus avulsion, and I ruptured my subclavian artery. And so more times than not, you don't see this in football. You see it on motorcycles. And so if this would have happened to me in a motorcycle accident and I didn't play football, just truthfully speaking, I don't think I would have been able to handle it in the manner that I did. And so, I think I'll coach, but it'll be at my high school if I get the opportunity to try to impact some lives. Yeah. Thank you for your question, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Johnson, what type, if any, mentorship do you do with wounded and drill veterans? Because I was a wounded guy myself, obviously,
Yes, sir.
different injuries. But I see frequently that it's really important for people to understand, hey, listen, I don't know exactly the struggles you've gone to or gone through, but I've done this. How do you go about mentoring?
Yes, sir.
Let somebody understand that our struggles are different, but the end state is always the same.
Absolutely. I haven't had the privilege of working with veterans as of yet. Got great respect, admiration for them. Grateful, thankful if you're a veteran. Thank you for what you do. You're a veteran? Can we give him a hand, please? That's awesome. But, in the work that I do with mentoring, I just believe that, an example is better than an opinion. And you have a lot of people that give their opinions, right? You have a lot of people that talk. You have a lot of critics with no credentials, right? And so with me, I always want to exemplify before I try to speak and tell a person what to do. And so when I was up here speaking, and I said, I just believe when I'm in a person's presence, I'm supposed to give them excellence. And so with the kids that I work with, like, we're having a back-to-school bash tomorrow. And I was telling my friend here, every year we do it. We give away a little scholarship to 2 kids, Atlanta and Tennessee, do different work. We bring in law enforcement from Atlanta Police Department, bring in different professionals, let them speak to them. And the reason I do things like that is I'm big on showing first so they can see it. And when they see it, I firmly believe people pose questions because they want to understand. It's just like the ESPN guy. He didn't come at me because of anything I did in football. He wanted to understand, why did I respond and why did I live my life the way that I did? And so a lot of times with the children I work with, I just walk alongside of them. And so my mom told me at one point, she said, son, sometimes with people, you literally got to love the hell out of them. Literally, just love them, right? And so that's the first thing I try to do is just love on them and meet them where they are until we get to the point to where the conviction sets in. And to the point to where I say, man, you know you could live better, you know you could do better. You know you owed it to the people that sacrificed and believed in you and saw something in you when you couldn't see it in yourself. I firmly believe no matter how high an individual rises, like I'm sure we got some pretty successful people in this room, but I don't believe in the term self-made. Like I don't believe anybody is self-made. At one point or another, we've all had people that's helped us, saw things in us when we couldn't see it in ourselves, that shaped and molded us into the individuals that we are today. And so I live my life to give them a return on their investment for the individuals that I interact with. Thank you, sir. Yeah, good to go. God bless you all. Thank you.
One more time. Let's just thank Ink. That was incredible, right? One more time.